If you think us comic book fans get mad at bad adaptations, well, you don't know anything about the Godzilla fandom. And welcome back to the heart of the stories we tell. I'm Rob the host, and this is another look deep into what makes a story, a theory on storytelling by a storyteller who believes that every story has merit. And tonight's episode is giant monster movies, as part of my Halloween specials on monsters. Now, the term kaiju is used a lot. It basically is just the Japanese word for giant monster. Before we go any further, I just want to give a quick disclaimer. I'm not the biggest fan of kaiju. Actually, to be honest, the older monster movies I like for nostalgia, but King Kong is the only one I really have a special place for in my heart. But to all of you who love giant monster movies, I understand my opinion is not what you're here for. You're here for some ideas. So, if you haven't been here before, hit that subscribe button. I go over concepts of stories along with Throwback Thursdays and TV and movie reviews every week. For now, let's settle in and talk about exactly what it is we mean when we say giant monsters. So let's start with one of the big ones, maybe the first one, Godzilla, the god of lizards. And he's pretty powerful. And the whole idea of him, though, isn't really about telling a giant monster movie where they just fight. Well, maybe nowadays it is. But the original concept, for those of you that don't know, was an analogy to the Hiroshima and Nagasaki events. It was more of a protest film than a horror movie. Well, I guess it was kind of horrific, because what they wanted to do was they wanted to tell the story of how horrible radiation is. And that's what this is. It's a radiation analogy. And that's where we're going to get into the beginning of my theory on giant monster movies. Giant monster movies aren't your typical horror. They're more of an analogy horror. Because anyone who's ever lived through any sort of disaster knows, whether it be man-made or not, at the end of the day, you're powerless to stop them. Now, yes, over the years we have tried to make fantastical ways for us to fight them, and even gotten to the point where the monster is the hero, but at the end of the day, this is still a force of nature more powerful than anything you can be. And as I'm recording this, we have just had 2 superstorms in the United States that were so huge, so catastrophic, that we don't even have words for them. There's no such thing as a Category 6 hurricane, but if there was, mathematically, that's what Irma would have been. So next time you see a giant crab... What movie is a giant crab from? Where did I even get that picture? Or a 3-headed flying dragon? You might just think about the fact that these monsters are really just a stand-in for how powerless we are. In fact, that's what started the kaiju craze. The idea that no matter how much control, how much technology we have, there's nothing that's going to save us. There's no Power Rangers in the real world. These monsters would devastate Angel Grove, or probably the Golden Gate Bridge, because they all devastate the Golden Gate Bridge for some reason. We don't have Jaegers. We can't cancel the apocalypse. And I could spend an entire month just talking about where it is I think that technology came from and failed. But at the end of the day, that's what this is. Giant monsters are just the end of your world. We even play as them in video games. The same way we like shooting up people in Grand Theft Auto, we destroy buildings in Rampage. And I want you to think about that for a second. What is this all doing for you psychologically? And I'd love your comments down below to let me know what you think that is. But let me tell you what I think it is. At the end of the day, we hate that feeling of powerlessness. We hate the idea that there are things going on that are just outside of our control. And that hate leads to fear. Yeah, Star Wars, but it works really in this case. We're afraid of the tornado, we're afraid of the blizzard. Just take a look at how many people do these doomsday prepping stuff. Doomsday prepping, as funny as it can be to plan for the zombie apocalypse, in reality is planning for a very real apocalypse. We don't know when a superstorm's going to come and destroy us. And in these movies, sometimes we can fight back. More often than not, we can't really. We need to kind of hope. We need to look to these and say, hey, there's an end to this. We're going to make it through. And sometimes it's just about embracing the ridiculousness of our fears to try to laugh through it in order to get through the idea of these storms coming. So for the odd man out here in the horror monster movies, the giant monsters aren't about horror of us being afraid of the monster coming to get us. We'd rather think of a monster coming to get us instead of the earth itself. Okay, so next week we're going to take a look at a more classic monster, the vampire. For now, though, if you enjoyed this insight and thoughts, like and share this video, and of course, if you haven't already, click that subscribe button and enable alerts, because I'm trying to build up a whole community here, one where we can talk about all the different ways that stories impact us, the hows and the whys. Every week I do a Flashback Thursday, where I look at an older story, and a theory video like this every Sunday, along with TV and movie reviews as I can. I hope you have a good night, and thank you for taking these steps through the heart of the stories we tell. Have a good night.